Have you ever found yourself in a situation where someone criticizes or blames you, and no matter how much you try to explain, the other person just doesn't understand, and instead, accuses you of making excuses? You want to make it clear that you are not at fault, but the more you explain, the deeper you feel yourself sinking into a web of justifications and theories that the other person cannot accept. You want others to understand you, but the end result is increasing disrespect, growing criticism, and cracks beginning to form in your relationship, cracks that are hard to heal. It's an exhausting and frustrating feeling when your efforts to defend yourself only seem to make things worse. When you try to explain, you think you'll convince the other person, but sometimes, all it does is add confusion and misunderstanding. And in that moment, you feel like you're falling into a trap of self-justification. The more you try to prove you're right, the more you try to clarify your reasons, the more the other person believes you are wrong. What you seek is empathy and understanding, but instead, all you receive is criticism, doubt, and sometimes, unreasonable words. In these debates, you feel lost, and every explanation only seems to add to the confusion. And eventually, you begin to feel exhausted, not just physically, but mentally as well. Your efforts seem to have no results. You're faced with a difficult choice: continue explaining or give up. Surely, we've all experienced those moments when explanation becomes a burden rather than an opportunity to clarify everything, especially when the people around you don't understand or refuse to understand. That's when you realize that in such debates, all your efforts only diminish your credibility, hurt yourself, and ultimately leave you stuck in the other person's criticism. This feeling is truly uncomfortable, and it's hard to avoid. If you don't know how to handle it, you can easily fall into an inescapable spiral. The more you explain, the more you defend yourself, the more you feel trapped in invisible threads of misunderstanding and misjudgment. It's as though you're sinking deeper into self-doubt, and the emotional wounds grow more painful. The story I want to share with you today serves as a wake-up call for those moments when you feel stuck in a dead end, unable to find a way out of an endless argument. It's a short story called The Small Thread by the writer Gideon Person, who once pointed out a phenomenon many of us have faced or are still facing: the paradox of self-justification. In this story, Gideon Person uses the image of a small thread to describe others' misunderstandings of you. The more you try to prove you're right, the more you want others to understand, the tighter that thread becomes, and in the end, it not only binds you but also makes you feel suffocated. It's like an invisible trap where the more you struggle to escape, the deeper you get into a difficult situation. The more you try to prove you're right, the worse things get. Now, let's begin. Are you tying yourself with a rope? Surely, all of us have found ourselves in a situation where we are misunderstood or criticized, and we don't know how to explain things properly. Have you ever felt that your explanations are never enough to clarify everything? In fact, the more you try to explain, the more others accuse you of making excuses or even being unreasonable. The story of an old farmer living in poverty will make you reconsider how we protect ourselves in such awkward moments. Mr. Hahn, a simple farmer who lived a frugal and thrifty life, never threw anything away, even if it was old or tattered. His clothes and shoes, no matter how worn out, he would patch them up and continue to use them. This was his way of life, a man who worked hard his whole life with the belief that everything had value and shouldn't be discarded easily. One day, on his way to the market in the town, he came across an old piece of rope lying on the ground. As someone used to living in poverty, he didn't hesitate to pick it up and carefully coil it. He thought there might be a time when he would need it, and this free item could come in handy for future work. As Mr. Hahn picked up the rope, he accidentally locked eyes with Mandy, an old acquaintance, though not a close friend. Their relationship had always been tense due to past arguments over livestock trade. Seeing him picking up a cheap piece of rope, Mandy couldn't help but think that he was acting miserably, even to the point of being so stingy that he picked up discarded rope. Mr. Hahn immediately noticed Mandy's suspicious gaze, and in a moment of panic, he hurriedly hid the rope in his cloak, as though it were a shameful action. He feared that if others saw, they would think he was so poor that he couldn't let go of anything, even something as worthless as that rope. And then, what he feared happened. Mandy quickly spread the word about Mr. Han picking up the rope, and the suspicion didn't stop there. One day, as he stopped to rest at a nearby restaurant, people were talking about someone losing a wallet. Suddenly, 2 police officers arrived and took him in for questioning. It turned out that Mandy had reported him, suspecting that he had found someone's wallet and didn't return it. Mr. Han was horrified and immediately tried to explain, pulling out the rope to prove that he wasn't involved in the incident. But the police checked and found nothing except the rope he was carrying. They released him, but told him to wait for further summons. As soon as Mr. Han stepped out of the police station, he saw a crowd gathering, curious about what had happened. When he tried to explain the situation, showing the rope to prove his innocence, everyone burst out laughing, and no one believed him. The old man continued walking around the town, explaining his story to each person, but the more he explained, the more the suspicion grew. People mocked him, and no one trusted his words. They thought he was simply making excuses for his actions, trying to justify his poverty and stinginess. He kept going around the town, trying to prove his innocence, but despite being exhausted, he couldn't shake the doubt in everyone's eyes. Soon, new rumors spread. A worker had confessed to the police that he was the one who found the wallet and returned it to its owner. Although the matter was cleared up, Mr. Han couldn't find peace. The rumors became even more absurd, and some people even suggested that he was the mastermind, having bribed the worker to take the fall for him. The injustice became even worse. He no longer knew what to do to prove his innocence. Every day, he wandered around the village, telling his story, but everyone just laughed at him, thinking he was making it all up and justifying his actions. He became a joke in everyone's eyes, and his name was associated with dishonesty. His spirit gradually crumbled, and his body grew weaker. In the end, he died in loneliness and despair. His death wasn't only caused by physical exhaustion, but also by the mental torment he had endured throughout this time. So why did the old man try so hard to explain everything? It was his fear of others' judgment that led him into the trap of self-justification. The rope he hid in his cloak wasn't just a simple object, it became a symbol of his fear of being seen as poor. He didn't want to be viewed as so impoverished that he had to pick up every little thing, so he rushed to explain, trying to prove his innocence. But his attempts to protect his ego only made his situation worse, and in the end, he couldn't escape. Mr. Han's story is a great lesson for us about how to deal with criticism and doubt. When you feel misunderstood, don't rush to explain everything. The more you try to defend yourself, the more you might make others look at you with suspicion. Remember, in life, you don't always need to prove you're right, and sometimes, silence is the wisest choice. Be silent. We often think of silence as weakness, as accepting others' judgments and opinions. However, in reality, silence is one of the most powerful forms of resistance. Only those with inner strength can remain calm when facing external reactions. But what does true silence mean? It is not about avoiding or running away from the issue. True silence is not about hiding or being passive. It is the ability to remain calm and balanced, even when facing external pressures. When you choose silence, you no longer allow the outside world to control your soul. You don't feel the need to justify or explain yourself every time someone disagrees with you. Instead, you hold on to your dignity, peace, and integrity, regardless of the noise around you. In today's world, maintaining silence can be difficult, especially when we are often surrounded by opinions, criticisms, and expectations from others. It's easy to feel like we need to defend ourselves, prove we're right, or show our worth. But by doing so, we only continue to feed the cycle of doubt and conflict. On the other hand, when we choose silence, we break free from this cycle and take back control of our own story. True silence is not about avoidance, it's about knowing when and how to respond. Silence can be a way of respecting yourself, honoring your peace, and standing firm in your truth. It is the awareness that not every battle needs to be fought, not every misunderstanding needs to be explained immediately. Sometimes, the most powerful response is to remain silent and let the truth speak for itself. When we remain silent, we create space for reflection, to gather our thoughts, and to respond intentionally rather than impulsively. It allows us to listen, not only to others but also to ourselves. In this space, we can find clarity about our emotions, fears, and desires. This clarity gives us true strength, the strength to stand firm when facing criticism or misunderstanding. It's important to note that silence here is not about avoiding responsibility, it's about knowing when to step back. Silence is a way of showing respect for yourself and maintaining inner peace. When you keep silent, you stop participating in the cycle of justification and start trusting that, in time, the truth will come to light. So, next time you feel urged to defend yourself, explain, or justify your actions, ask yourself, is silence the stronger choice? Can you remain calm and trust that the truth will eventually be revealed? True strength lies in the ability to stay composed, unaffected by external judgments, and to trust your own inner wisdom. The power of silence when misunderstood. There are moments in life when you are misunderstood, criticized, or judged unfairly. In those times, our instinct is often to react, justifying, explaining, or even trying to prove we are right. But did you know that sometimes, silence is the strongest answer? Imagine a moment when you are harshly criticized, and you want to defend yourself. Instead of arguing, you simply smile and remain silent. It's that very silence, that refusal to retaliate, that makes you strong. I want to share a story with you. It happened at an art exhibition in England, where a renowned painter, with his unique style, was completing a peony painting. However, not everyone understood his method. One person in the crowd, with a look of suspicion and criticism, loudly mocked, "Spitting water to create art? How ridiculous." These words immediately drew attention, and of course, the painter was the first to feel the sting of the criticism. But instead of reacting, instead of defending himself or explaining, the painter simply smiled and continued working on his piece. A moment later, someone asked him, "Surely you could explain to everyone why you're doing this. Why not say a few words so they understand, and then it'll all be over?" The painter calmly replied, "If that person truly cares about art, they will understand on their own. But if they don't care, no matter how much I explain, they still won't understand." You may wonder, why didn't the painter explain? Because he understood a very important lesson: everyone's perception is different. Each of us views the world in our own way, and not everyone is open to hearing another perspective. When you're misunderstood, sometimes silence is all you need. Silence is not submission, it is not a lack of confidence or weakness. On the contrary, it is the strength of self-control, the power of holding your ground and not being swept away by baseless words from others. There is a famous quote I love: "The only way to win a debate is to avoid debating." Indeed, you'll realize that in many situations, trying to explain yourself only makes things worse. Some people only want to hear what they want to hear, and no matter what you say, you will never change their opinion. In fact, only weak people, those dependent on the opinions of others, can't remain silent. Truly strong people don't need to argue to prove they are right. They just need to do their work well and let the world understand on its own. You've probably met people like this, haven't you? People who are always arguing, always trying to prove themselves, but no matter how much they argue, they will never be recognized. That's the trap of ego. When you cling to your ego, thinking you have to prove that you're right, you will never find peace. In reality, that ego is just a fragile shell that hides the insecurity and fear inside you. So how do we deal with this? How do we stay strong when misunderstood or criticized? The answer is, be silent. Silence doesn't mean accepting everything, it doesn't mean ignoring injustice. Silence means recognizing that not everyone around you will understand you, and you don't need to explain yourself to them. Silence means understanding that you can't please everyone, and by remaining silent, not reacting, you are protecting yourself. Another famous story can help you visualize this. It's about someone standing on a mountain peak. They look out into the vast, endless sea. But the person at the foot of the mountain only sees a desolate, ruined landscape. Everyone has a different perspective. When you understand that not everyone can see things the way you do, you'll find it easier to embrace silence and not feel the need to argue with everyone. So, when you find yourself in a difficult situation, when you're misunderstood, remember that sometimes, silence is true strength. Silence is not surrender, it is self-control and self-respect. When you remain silent, you not only maintain inner peace but also compel others to think and come to their own understanding. Because truly strong people don't need to prove anything. They just need to be themselves, and that is real strength. Silence is when you face doubt without letting it overwhelm you. There are moments in life when you find yourself in challenging situations, where everything seems to go wrong, and doubt and worry relentlessly invade your mind. Especially when you face doubt, not just from others, but from yourself. This is an invisible challenge, a trap that makes you feel weak, incapable, and unworthy. But what is crucial is that in these moments, silence can liberate you from all the doubts. Silence is not about being quiet out of fear or simply accepting everything. Silence is when you stand firm amidst the storm of chaotic thoughts, when you stop arguing with yourself and instead, face the doubt without letting it control you. One thing many of us tend to do is self-criticism whenever we feel imperfect. Sometimes, even a small mistake at work, a thoughtless comment that hurt someone, or a moment of family discord leads us to immediately turn on ourselves. I'm terrible. I'm not good enough. I'm a failure. These thoughts form an endless loop, tormenting us with no way out. And this becomes an invisible chain, tightening around your mind and emotions. Self-criticism becomes so intense that it turns into the harshest judge you face. You hear the voice in your head, constantly scolding you, passing severe judgments. But have you ever asked yourself, do we really need to do this? Can we let go of self-blame and accept that we are human, with our flaws and mistakes? The book, The Day the Frog Went to See the Psychologist, points out an important insight. No criticism is stronger than self-criticism, and no judge is harsher than ourselves. Indeed, sometimes we hurt ourselves more than any criticism from others. But instead of sinking deeper into guilt and self-blame, why not stop, take a deep breath, and accept yourself? Accept that you are not perfect, and that's okay. Silence is when you face yourself, not arguing, not struggling, but instead accepting yourself with all your strengths and weaknesses. It's when you let go of doubt and self-blame, so you can see the path ahead more clearly, free from the invisible fears that once held you back. Have you noticed that when you stop doubting yourself, the words and judgments from others no longer have the power to hurt you? Because you know your worth, you know who you are, and you've learned to love yourself with all your imperfections. Don't let doubt take over your mind, don't let small mistakes make you lose faith in yourself. Because only when you stop judging yourself can you see a bigger world, one where you can grow, learn, and evolve. Silence is when you're in difficulty, not to run away from the problem, but to stop, breathe, reflect, and realize that you can overcome anything. Silence is the strength of clarity, the peace of mind when everything around seems chaotic. And when you can maintain that silence, you'll find that you don't need to struggle, you don't need to justify yourself. You just need to be yourself. Silence is when you face hardships without complaining. Life is not always smooth. Sometimes, we find ourselves in dark moments when everything around us seems to be falling apart. During such times, we may feel lonely, sad, and in need of someone to share with, to comfort us. But in those moments, is it really a solution to turn to others and complain? Does expressing our pain, injustice, and challenges in life truly bring peace, or does it only deepen the wound within? Many of us have the habit of seeking comfort from others when faced with difficulties. It feels as though if we don't voice our pain, it will never fade. And it's easy to fall into a cycle of seeking someone to listen. But have you ever wondered if others really want to hear these things? In truth, no one can experience your life. No one fully understands your feelings. Everyone has their own story, and not everyone is always willing to take on the negative energy of someone else. There's a saying I like: never complain to anyone, because 80% of people don't care, and the remaining 20% will just find it amusing. I know this sounds harsh, but have you ever thought about it? When you share your pain, does the listener truly understand it, or do they simply listen and then go on with their own life? That's why complaining sometimes isn't the best way to solve a problem. They might listen once, but who really wants to keep hearing sad stories forever? When you keep complaining, do you realize that you might be bothering others, making them tired, and causing them to want to avoid you? And honestly, sometimes this is true. The people closest to you, even if they want to listen, might eventually get tired of hearing the same sad stories. They might start thinking you're stuck in a cycle of suffering that never changes. Some might think you're seeking sympathy, but in reality, you're building relationships based on pity instead of respect and understanding. However, in life, we must learn to face difficulties calmly. Remember that not every time you face a challenge do you need to complain to feel liberated. Sometimes, it's the silence within your soul that is the best way to overcome challenges. When you quietly face hardship without complaining, you're showing inner strength. That's when you know you can overcome everything without needing comfort from anyone else. Don't misunderstand me. I know everyone has moments of weakness, and finding a close friend to share with can sometimes be helpful. But don't turn sharing into complaining. The word sharing means expressing your inner thoughts and feelings, not just criticizing or complaining about the bad things you've encountered. If all you have are your pains, then have you turned your conversations into sad stories, unknowingly creating a loop you can't escape from? In life, everyone will face hardships. But remember, the pain inside each of us may not matter to others, and they may not want to keep hearing your sad stories forever. Even though people love and care for each other, there are limits. A story of suffering can just be a meaningless story to someone else, and if you're not careful, your complaints may turn you into someone others want to avoid. So, instead of endlessly complaining, quietly cultivate a calm mindset in the face of every difficulty. Read more books, learn more, enrich your thoughts and inner self. When you're truly strong from the inside, you will no longer fear any challenges. You will face every pain and challenge in life with a calm mind, unwavering. And when you find inner peace, nothing, no words, no criticism, no injustice, can steal that silence from you. Ultimately, silence is a strength that comes from within. It is not avoidance, it is acceptance and growth. When you face difficulties without complaining, you show that you've matured, that you've learned to love and take care of yourself, and you don't need sympathy or pity from anyone else. You know that you can overcome any challenge without burdening others, and you will be the source of strength to navigate through every storm of life. Silence is when you face criticism without getting angry. Life is full of moments when we must face the judgments of others, and at times, these remarks can be hurtful. Some people easily criticize, belittle, and assess you without understanding the context or the reasons behind your actions. These words can make you feel upset, wounded, and sometimes even hopeless. But is reacting, or trying to explain, really the best way to handle these judgments? There's a saying I live by: you can't please everyone. In life, we will always encounter people with differing opinions, those ready to judge our actions without understanding, and those who won't hesitate to criticize the choices we make. For example, if you're passionate about reading, there will always be someone who ridicules you for reading without doing anything useful. If you work hard on your fitness, someone might call you a person with too much free time. Or if you want to study abroad, you may hear advice like, why study? Go earn money, do business instead. These criticisms, even if they seem minor, can easily wound us, causing doubt in our choices or making us feel insecure about ourselves. The truth is, when you face criticism, often explaining yourself only worsens the situation. You might try to explain your reasons, clarify what you're doing, but if the other person doesn't understand or refuses to, all your efforts will be like wind blowing through the trees. This will only make you feel more upset, hurt, and unsatisfied with yourself. Moreover, when you try to explain, you're indirectly admitting your lack of confidence in the face of their judgments. It's like you feel the need to justify your actions, and that not only weakens you but also robs you of your calmness and respect for yourself. Why should we do this? Why let the criticisms of others affect us? In fact, the more you try to change to please others, the more tired and frustrated you'll feel. Some people even change themselves just to meet societal expectations, only to waste time and harm their spirit, losing their true essence and value. Instead of doing that, why not learn to remain silent and accept that you can't please everyone? In reality, silence and not reacting to criticism might be the wisest choice. You don't need to prove anything to anyone, nor do you need to explain why you do what you do. You can't change someone's thoughts, but you can definitely choose how you respond to their criticism. If you react with anger, or try to defend yourself by criticizing others, you'll fall into an endless loop of conflict, and no one wins in such arguments. Therefore, instead of arguing or getting angry, stay silent and continue doing what you believe is right. Remember, the criticism from others is only their opinion, not an absolute truth. As a writer once said, "Your explanations about me can never reflect a fraction of who I am, but the rest entirely reflects who you are." This means that others' remarks only reflect their thoughts and feelings, not the truth about you. Don't let criticism control you. Don't let it turn you into someone you don't want to be just to please others. You don't need to prove yourself to anyone. The way you live, the way you act, and how you face life is what defines you, not the unfounded words of others. Remember, silence is not about fear or avoidance, it's the silence of inner strength. When you don't let criticism or judgment affect you, you will not be swept up in negative emotions. You will maintain inner peace, undisturbed by external factors. And when you master this silence, you will have the power to continue living your way, unaffected by what others think of you. Finally, let yourself know that silence is not resignation, it's self-control. When you don't react to criticism or judgment, you're showing your confidence and strength. And that is when you truly take control of your life. Let others' judgments and criticisms no longer affect you, so you can live a life that's truly free, full of inner strength. Silence is self-control. Life doesn't always go the way we want. Sometimes, we face stressful situations, criticism from others, or even unavoidable events. And in those moments, we might feel hurt, disappointed, or even frustrated. Unsolicited judgment can stir our emotions and unsettle our minds. But when faced with such situations, is our first reaction to speak up in defense or get angry? Or could we choose another way, one that not only helps us overcome but also makes us stronger and more self-controlled than ever? Silence is not the absence of sound because of fear or avoidance of difficulties. Silence is when you can maintain inner calm, even when you're surrounded by a storm of emotions. It is the ability to face life's challenges without allowing them to take control of you, without losing your self-control or emotional balance. It is self-mastery in your actions, emotions, and your response to life's trials. Perhaps when you're in the midst of an argument or facing someone's criticism, your first instinct is anger. You want to protect yourself, explain your reasons, or simply respond to prove you're not being oppressed. But have you ever asked yourself, is it possible that every time we react immediately to criticism, we are falling into a trap of frustration and losing control? Silence allows you not to let negative emotions dictate your actions. Instead of reacting impulsively, silence teaches you to pause, take a deep breath, and prevent your emotions from causing you to lose control. You understand that you don't always have to explain or justify yourself. Every criticism or judgment from others does not define you. It's merely their perspective, not the truth about who you are. In those moments, you don't need to argue or prove anything. In fact, when you can remain silent in tense situations, you're showing remarkable self-control. You don't need anyone's validation, nor do you have to change yourself to please others. You've understood your own worth, and you know that no amount of criticism or judgment from others can change who you are. When you keep silence, you're demonstrating that you don't need to react impulsively to protect yourself. You don't let anger or resentment dominate you. You can remain calm, think carefully about the situation, and evaluate whether it's worth engaging in the struggle. And that's maturity, true self-control of the soul. Silence isn't the absence of speech out of fear. It is the silence of a steadfast heart, a mind strong enough not to be disturbed by outside influences. When you know how to remain silent, you realize that you don't need the approval of anyone to feel at peace. You don't have to live to please everyone. You live for yourself, for what you believe in, and for the values you carry within you. And when you can maintain silence in such moments, you will find that you can live more freely, with peace of mind, and no longer be swept away by negative thoughts. The truth is, criticism and judgment from others will always be a part of life. You can't change those perspectives, but you can decide how to react to them. Silence is self-control in the way you face life, in keeping calm, and in maintaining confidence in yourself. When you don't allow external factors to take over, you'll feel like a strong river, unimpeded by the currents of others. Ultimately, silence is a declaration of self. It's not submission or avoidance. It's a deep understanding of your own value and the confidence that you can overcome any hardship without the need for sympathy or protection from others. Silence is a magnificent form of self-control, and when you can maintain this silence, you will realize that you can live a life unburdened, full of strength and freedom. Silence helps you develop your thinking. When you can maintain silence, you're not just protecting yourself from the negative influences of the outside world, you're also creating space for your mind to develop. In today's fast-paced world, where information, pressure, and emotions come from all directions, it's easy to get caught up in a whirlwind of chaotic thoughts. At times, we may even lose track of what we're truly thinking, wondering whether those thoughts are really ours or just a reaction to stress. But when you know how to pause and keep silent, you'll discover a powerful force in taking control of your thinking. Silence helps you clear your mind, allowing you to pause in the moment and give your brain a rest. Instead of letting emotions overpower you, or being consumed by worries about the future or past failures, you can find a quiet space where you can assess things more clearly. Without being surrounded by emotional turmoil, you can evaluate situations more objectively, see the problem from different angles, and make smarter, more effective decisions. For example, in your work, when facing a tough decision, perhaps a significant choice related to your career or long-term goals, you'll feel pressure from many directions, colleagues, bosses, even your own expectations. In such a stressful situation, if you fail to remain silent, it's easy to make a rash decision, swayed by the immediate emotions of fear of failure or missing out on an opportunity. This can lead to poor choices, causing you to regret them later. However, if you can maintain silence in moments like these, you'll be able to take a deep breath, pause, and gain a broader perspective of the issue. You will sense clarity in your thoughts, helping you recognize feasible options and paths that align with your values and long-term goals. Silence allows you to escape the confusion caused by emotions, leading to a well-thought-out and confident decision. Silence also helps you develop critical thinking, analytical skills, and the ability to evaluate situations. When you're not influenced by external factors, you can clearly see the essence of the problem, recognize the strengths and weaknesses of each option, and ultimately find the best solution. Nothing in life is more valuable than a clear, undisturbed mind, and silence is the key to achieving that. We all know that an overloaded mind cannot think clearly. Strong emotions, such as anger or anxiety, can diminish our ability to think, making it difficult to make the right decisions. However, when you can stop and maintain silence, you won't be swept away by the emotional whirlwind, and you'll be able to focus on what matters. This is the power of silence. It not only helps you feel at peace, but it also allows you to think more clearly and find the best solution to any problem in life. So, when you face challenges at work or in life, instead of reacting impulsively with emotions, seek silence. Pause, breathe deeply, and give yourself time to think. You'll find that the decisions you make in a calm state will have far more strength and impact than those made in anger or anxiety. And most importantly, you'll realize that silence not only helps you face the outside world but also helps you find peace within yourself. Silence helps you discover inner strength. Silence is not just about external stillness, it's a profound inner process. When you can maintain a state of silence, you're truly discovering a level of inner strength that you may not even realize you possess. It's the ability to restrain yourself, to avoid being swept up in tense situations or conflicts, and more importantly, the ability to prevent external factors from disturbing the peace within you. When you're in a state of silence, you begin to sense a powerful force within yourself. This isn't physical strength or social finesse, it's strength from within. It's the ability to control your emotions, to decide how to face challenges without being influenced by what's happening around you. And this is something many of us seek but have difficulty recognizing. True strength comes from inner peace. When you don't immediately react to criticism or injustice, you're not just showing calmness, but you're also demonstrating self-control. In difficult situations, when you feel threatened, this self-control becomes more vital than ever. By keeping your silence, you not only avoid making rash decisions but also see things more clearly, helping you make the best possible choices. For instance, when you face challenges in life, be it a strained relationship, a failed work project, or personal struggles, it's easy to get caught up in negative emotions like anxiety or anger if you don't remain silent. These emotions will only make the situation worse, and you may not be able to handle the problem effectively. However, by maintaining silence, you can view the issue from a different perspective, realizing that each challenge brings an opportunity to learn and grow. You'll come to understand that difficulties are temporary, and true strength lies in overcoming them without being swayed by external influences. One of the most important things that silence brings is the ability to recover. When life presents you with obstacles and hardships, you may feel exhausted and tempted to give up. However, silence allows you to pause, reflect on yourself, and replenish your energy. In a state of silence, you not only learn to accept what has happened, but you also find the strength to rise up and continue moving forward. Silence also enables you to connect more deeply with yourself. When you temporarily set aside the noise and distractions from the outside world, you'll start to hear your own thoughts, emotions, and desires more clearly. This is crucial because, in the rush of life, we often forget to listen to ourselves. Silence is the opportunity for you to return to yourself, to understand what truly matters, and to identify the values you wish to pursue. Remember, inner strength is not something you achieve overnight. It takes time to develop, and silence is the key element that allows you to discover and nurture this power. When you can maintain silence in any situation, you become not only stronger but also wiser and more decisive in every decision you make in life. Silence helps nurture healthy relationships. In today's society, human relationships are often tested by misunderstandings, conflicts, and negative emotions. However, silence plays a crucial role in maintaining healthy and lasting relationships. When you can maintain silence in your actions and communication, it becomes easier to understand and respect others, while also avoiding unnecessary conflicts. One of the greatest benefits of silence in relationships is the ability to listen. When you're not swayed by your own emotions, you can listen to others deeply, understanding what they truly want to say, and creating a safe space where they feel free to express themselves. By staying silent in tense situations, you not only show respect to others, but you also create an opportunity for them to open up, share their thoughts without fear of judgment or criticism. Silence also helps you avoid reacting too quickly in situations that might lead to arguments. When emotions take over, we often respond thoughtlessly, making the situation worse. But when you remain silent, you can control your emotions and think carefully about what to say and how to say it. This not only minimizes conflicts but also opens up opportunities to seek common solutions, agreements, and mutual understanding in your relationship. In romantic relationships, silence plays a key role in maintaining harmony. When both people in a relationship can remain calm and respect each other, problems are resolved more easily. You won't be easily drawn into pointless arguments. Instead, you'll find ways to face and address issues in a mature and responsible manner. Understanding the power of silence means knowing when to speak and when to remain quiet, giving the other person space to think and feel. A truly strong relationship doesn't always need long conversations. Sometimes, it only requires shared moments of quiet understanding. When you and the other person can share peaceful moments, not needing to speak, but still feeling the connection, that is the essence of a truly healthy and bonded relationship. Silence also helps you develop self-awareness within the relationship. You become aware of when you need to change your behavior, how you react to others, and how you contribute to creating a positive space in the relationship. Sometimes, just a little silence and not reacting strongly can help ease tense emotions, allowing both parties to regain peace and rebuild trust. In all types of relationships, whether with friends, family, colleagues, or partners, silence helps maintain mutual respect and heal broken connections. You no longer feel the need to prove yourself or seek validation from others. Instead, you focus on a relationship based on empathy, understanding, and mutual respect. Silence as a remedy for negative emotions. Life sometimes leads us astray with negative emotions, sorrow, anxiety, or stress. In such moments, many people turn to loved ones or friends to share their sadness, hoping for comfort. However, sharing emotions doesn't always solve the problem. In fact, it can sometimes make things worse. Constantly venting only drags both you and those listening deeper into pessimism and loss. Silence is a wonderful remedy to break free from the spiral of negative emotions. When you don't immediately react to anger or sorrow, you can view the problem from a different angle and face it more calmly and effectively. Rather than letting emotions control you, silence allows you to take charge of your mood. You don't need to rush to solve everything right away. In fact, allowing yourself to pause and breathe in silence creates space for recovery. Silence helps you understand that negative emotions, no matter how intense, are temporary. They come and go, but if you don't let yourself get swept away by them, you can maintain peace within. When faced with difficulties, don't rush to react. Try pausing, taking a deep breath, and allowing your mind to settle. This doesn't mean you're avoiding the problem, but rather giving yourself time to process everything calmly. Once you grasp the power of silence, you'll realize that negative emotions no longer have the power to control you easily. Instead of being overwhelmed by sadness or worry, you'll find your inner strength to face challenges more serenely. In fact, by maintaining silence, you also expand your ability to view problems more objectively, unaffected by transient emotions. You'll realize that pain and hardship are just parts of your journey and will pass when you face them with clarity. Silence is like a quiet morning when you stand in a serene space, breathing in the fresh air. Everything becomes lighter, and you feel as though you can rise above any storm in life. By keeping your soul in silence, you become stronger, more self-controlled, and ready to face any challenge without being affected by negative emotions. Instead of continuing to drown in the storm of negative emotions, try rediscovering silence within yourself. Let it be the source of strength that heals and nurtures your growth. Because only when you are truly at peace within can you see the light and new beginnings after life's storms. Silence as persistence in goals. In life, every goal comes with its own set of challenges and difficulties. When you're striving to achieve something significant, obstacles, failures, or even moments of self-doubt can arise, pushing you toward the temptation to give up. However, in this context, silence is not just psychological stillness, it's the persistence and steadfastness in your goals. When facing difficulties, silence helps you avoid being swept up by immediate emotions. You don't rush to react or let temporary failures or disappointments dictate your feelings and decisions. This doesn't mean you won't feel sad or discouraged, but you understand that these emotions are just a small part of the long journey. Instead of quitting or altering your goals due to a few setbacks, you learn to reassess the situation, learn from your mistakes, and continue moving forward. Silence helps you maintain composure in the face of failure, and more importantly, it helps you recognize that every challenge is an opportunity to learn. It's the awareness that no path is smooth, and while the obstacles may be uncomfortable, they are an essential part of your growth process. Like a blacksmith, you must endure heat and forceful strikes to become a stronger and sharper piece of metal. Every step along the long journey may not be easy, but the stillness in your mind helps you focus on the ultimate goal. When you maintain a calm mindset, you can more easily spot opportunities and solutions in difficult situations. Most importantly, silence is not just about endurance, it's also about the ability to keep acting quietly, without needing to prove to anyone that you're on the right path. By maintaining silence within, you can persist, despite everything around you, and steadily move closer to your goal with peace and confidence. Finally, in moments of stillness, I realize something important. Peace does not come from the outside, it comes from harmony within oneself. The hurried days, seeking validation from others, chasing praise, or striving for societal acceptance are merely raindrops in the storm of life. When I learned to stop seeking recognition from the outside and instead began to listen to my own inner voice, I truly felt that I was living fully. Silence is not the quietude of weakness or avoidance, but the strength of a soul that has learned to face challenges without being swept away by them. In difficult moments, instead of being busy trying to explain myself to those who don't understand, I simply stand firm, maintain my composure, and continue walking my path. Because I know that truth always finds its way, and sometimes, silence is the most powerful voice. Silence has taught me that in the most difficult moments, when I don't need to react, when I don't need to prove anything, that is when I am the strongest. And if there is one thing I want to share with everyone, it is this: never judge a person's strength by their words. They may not speak, but in their silence, you will see an ocean of resilience, a soul that has weathered life's ups and downs. And then, when everything becomes clear, I realize that silence is not an end, but a new beginning. A beginning of freedom, freedom from constraints, freedom from judgment, freedom from external factors. It's when I know that deep within, I am enough, I am whole, and I can face anything. Because in silence, I find myself. If you appreciate what I've shared, please help me by clicking like and subscribe. Wishing you a peaceful, happy, and energy-filled day. See you next time. Bye-bye.